Have you ever had a deeply intimate experience with somebody only to wake up the next day feeling embarrassed or ashamed? Have you ever opened yourself up to another person only to feel used, taken advantage of, or disrespected afterwards? Do you wish that there was some way to avoid the awkwardness or regret that can sometimes happen after you share space with somebody in a deeply intimate way? If so, then I hope that what I'm going to share with you in this video can offer some value for you. I had sex for the first time when I was 12 years old, and I'll be honest, most of my sexual experiences in my life led to some kind of regret, guilt, shame, or embarrassment afterwards. And this usually happened because of poor communication between me and the other person. A lot of times we had these unconscious, unspoken, vague expectations for where the relationship was going to go, which would usually lead to somebody getting hurt. Either I expected the relationship to become some kind of monogamous or deeply romantic relationship, and the other person wanted it to be a one-night stand or an open relationship. Or maybe it was the other way around, and I was just looking for a casual, intimate experience with somebody, and they were looking for something deeper and more committed. And as a result, because we had these unspoken expectations, one of us would usually end up disappointed or feeling ashamed or feeling taken advantage of or used. And what I'm about to share with you has helped me start to avoid those types of situations. Now, I'm not saying this is a miracle cure. I'm not saying this is going to help you avoid all discomfort, all shame, and all regret in your intimate relationships, but it can help you get clear on your own expectations so you can turn those expectations into clear agreements. I've noticed that most of my suffering in relationships comes from me or the other person having unspoken expectations and thinking they are clear agreements when really there was nothing clear at all. So this acronym that I'm about to share with you is going to help you take your expectations from being unconscious, vague, unspoken expectations to clear agreements so that you and your intimate partner or partners have a really clear idea of what you're doing and why. So this acronym is RBDSMA. Now before I continue, I just want to be clear, BDSM is not the same as RBDSMA. Even though they sound very similar, they have nothing to do with each other. Although you could practice BDSM if you use the RBDSMA acronym, and it might even help you go a little deeper into that experience. And you'll see what I mean as I share the acronym. So RBDSMA is an acronym, and each letter stands for a concept or an idea. So I'm going to share each of those ideas and how you might be able to use them in your intimate relationships. So R stands for relationship status. So the idea is that when I sit down with somebody and we're about to have an intimate experience, or maybe we're just on our first date, or maybe we just had our first kiss, and I want to slow down and say, hey, you know what, I want to create some clear agreements between us so we both know what we're experiencing and where we're going. And so I'll start with R, being relationship status. Now this can be the simple relationship status, like the things you see on Facebook: in a relationship, married, divorced, single, it's complicated, etc. You can literally just use that as your simple relationship status. I take it a little bit deeper. I like to go a little bit more creative with it. And my relationship status at this time, and maybe for the rest of my life, is sovereign. I identify as being in a sovereign relationship with myself and my higher power. And any other relationship I'm going to be in is going to add to that sovereignty. So I don't identify as single. I don't identify as in a relationship, because I am in relationship with everyone. If I was to say, oh, I'm in relationship with this person, that might be a little misleading because I'm in many relationships. So I identify as sovereign. I believe that I'm whole and complete all by myself. And when I add another person or people to my relationship status, to my relationship experiences, then I add to that sovereignty. So I might say sovereign and in a relationship, or and in an intimate relationship, or a romantic relationship, or a sexual relationship with this person or these people. So relationship status could be as simple as single, in a relationship, in multiple relationships, in a monogamous relationship, in a closed relationship, or it might be bisexual, pansexual, heterosexual, homosexual, whatever. Your relationship status is the current status of how you're in relationships right now in this moment. So when I host conscious intimacy events, we usually practice some of these acronyms right from the beginning. I want to get really clear for everyone with where they're at, what their relationship status is, and what their expectations are for the experience. This is a really powerful way for me to be able to create space for myself and others to get really honest about where we're at. That way there's no confusion, no unspoken ideas, and we can get really clear with what's possible for us in those moments and where we might be emotionally. So R stands for relationship status. B stands for boundaries. Now this is so important to me because I know that any time that I felt shame in any kind of romantic or intimate experience, it's usually because I've crossed my own unspoken or spoken boundaries. Maybe I say to somebody, I'm not going to have sex today, and then I end up having sex, and then I might regret it afterwards. Now it's not necessarily the sex that I regret, it's usually the fact that I didn't respect my own boundaries. Maybe because I didn't express them, or because I did express them and I didn't respect them. So this is an opportunity to create a very safe boundary in my experience with somebody so there's no guilt, shame, or regret afterwards. So one of us don't feel like we're taken advantage of. Now boundaries could be simple. It could be like, today I'm only willing to kiss you. And then tomorrow we can rediscover those boundaries and see where we're at. Or maybe the boundary is, for the next hour, I'm only willing to kiss you. And then after that hour, we can discuss our boundaries again and then decide again where we're going to go from that point forward. When I host conscious intimacy events, the boundaries are usually nothing sexual, no kissing, and then that's pretty much it. So we don't touch the genitals, we don't touch the lips, and then otherwise we can play within those areas. So boundaries can actually be a lot of fun when I respect them in the way they're meant to be. So if I say to somebody, hey, the only thing we can do today is make out, well then we get to play in that boundary for as long as we want, both of us knowing that we're safe to explore that boundary and that we're not going to be pressured or pushed into going somewhere else. Now the value with setting these boundaries is that when I first set the boundary, I might be in an emotionally sober state. In other words, I'm not turned on, I'm not aroused, I'm not excited, so it's easy for me to set that boundary. But then as things get a little bit deeper, I might find myself questioning my boundary. And that's where things can be challenging because I may no longer be in an emotionally sober state. And so the decisions I make in a state where I'm no longer emotionally sober could be one of those situations where I create regret, shame, or guilt for myself. So if I'm not sure what my boundary is, I might say, well, for the next 2 hours, I'm not willing to do anything sexual. Or for the next 2 hours, I'm willing to kiss, and I'm willing to touch with our clothes on, but I'm not willing to touch under the clothes or take the clothes off. Or maybe tonight, I'm not willing to have sex, but tomorrow we can rediscuss our boundaries and see where we're at then. Boundaries might sound like a limitation. They might even sound like a way of ruining the fun. But I assure you, in my experience, boundaries can actually be really sexy. They can be a lot of fun. They can really help me go deep into an experience. Instead of rushing to the finish line, rushing to the point where I have sex, rushing to the point where I get to meet all of these needs that I have, I can slow it down and take it step by step. I'm learning through the practice of conscious intimacy that a lot of time when I think sex is what I'm wanting, what I'm really wanting is just a deep, intimate connection with somebody. Sometimes I can get that just through eye gazing. Sometimes I can get it through holding hands. Sometimes I can get it just from hugging for a long period of time. So being clear on my boundaries can help the other person and I get very clear with both where we're at emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. It can help me feel safe to practice within that boundary, within that area. So R stands for relationship status and B stands for boundaries. So I can get really clear on what my boundaries are in this particular situation. D is desires. Now this is where I can actually express my desires. And the idea is that I express my desires in the beginning and then I create an open dialogue with the person where we both agree that we're free to express our desires at any point in the interaction or interactions. So I could express my desires now, which might be, hey, I'd really like to cuddle with you. And then in an hour I might say, I'd like to express a desire. Are you open to hearing it? And that person may say yes. And if they say yes, I say, well, I would really love to kiss you. Now that person can still say no, because if we set boundaries for no kissing, then maybe there's no kissing. I can still express that desire, and we can both say, okay, now I know that I've expressed the desire, and maybe we'll practice that when we're outside of our boundary time. So maybe tonight there's no kissing, but maybe tomorrow we rediscover our boundaries, and maybe we explore what it might look like to experience deeper levels of intimacy. Desires could be, I really want to rub your hair. I really want to touch your face. I really want you to rub my back. I want you to make me some food. I want you to run me a bath. I can express any desires that I want with this person, and I can continue to ask to express desires as the interaction continues. So R stands for relationship status, B stands for boundaries, D stands for desires, and S stands for sexual health. So this could mean STDs, it could mean the inability to practice certain types of sexual positions, it could be erectile difficulties, it could be the girl's on her period, whatever it might be. S stands for sexual health. These are important things that I may want to let the person know, or I may want to know about the person before we jump into a deeply sexual romantic relationship together. Sexual health can mean all sorts of things. It doesn't have to mean physical. It can also mean a mental and emotional. It could be, hey, I was sexually abused as a kid and I'm really sensitive when it comes to sex and I really want to take this slow. Or there's a possibility, I just got out of a relationship, there's a possibility that I may feel deeply emotional if we're sexual. Are you okay with that? It's really getting clear on my sexual health in this current moment. So R stands for relationship status, B stands for boundaries, D stands for desires, S stands for sexual health, and then M stands for meaning. Now this is a powerful one for me because this is another one of those times where expectations can sometimes be misunderstood. Maybe the meaning for this situation for me is that I want it to become a deeply romantic relationship. I'm imagining myself having children with this person. I'm imagining myself getting married to this person. But then when they tell me the meaning for them, they say, well, I'm on vacation and I just want to have sex and that's all I'm interested in. Or I just want this to be a one-night stand and I don't want it to go anywhere else. Or I'm here for a week, but then I'm going back into my monogamous relationship after I get back to the country I live in, or whatever it might be. So getting really clear on what is the meaning of this situation. What is the meaning of this experience? What is the meaning of this particular interaction? Now, it could be, well, right now I'm just looking for a single experience. I'm not open to considering a long-term romantic relationship, and that might change over time. But right now, this is what it means. So this gives me an opportunity to get really clear with the person about what I'm wanting, what they're wanting, so we can get really clear on what the meaning of this experience is. Relationship status, boundaries, desires, sexual health, and meaning, and then the A stands for aftercare. Now, this is another thing that I have failed on in the past. Maybe after we have this deeply romantic experience together, you're going to want me to give you a call tomorrow. Or maybe you want me to make you breakfast when you wake up. Or maybe you want to cuddle afterwards. You don't want to just feel like we have really great sex and then we go to sleep and we don't touch each other. Or maybe you want me to call you later in the week so we can just check in and see how the experience landed for you. Aftercare is a way for me to feel respected, loved, appreciated by the other person, and for me to be able to help them feel loved, respected, and appreciated. So I can be really clear on what is the aftercare I'm wanting or needing after the experience that we're about to have. What is the aftercare you're wanting or needing after the experience that we're about to have? And can we get clear on that? Can we make those clear agreements? Maybe you say, well, I really want you to cuddle with me all night. And then I say, well, I'm just not willing to do that. Or you might say, I really want you to make me breakfast. And I say, well, cool. Well, I actually want you to make me breakfast. So we can get really clear on what are our expectations, what are our desires for how we want to be treated after the experience. So aftercare is a great way for me to avoid those discomfortable feelings, the regret, the guilt, the shame, the embarrassment, those feelings that can sometimes happen after a deeply romantic experience, a deeply intimate experience. I have this profound peak experience with another person, and then my programming kicks in, maybe my expectations or my attachment issues or my codependencies, my expectations kick in, and it ruins the experience for me. Well, RBDSMA is one of the ways that I can avoid those uncomfortable feelings, create some clear agreements rather than vague, unconscious, unspoken expectations, and I can allow myself to deeply fall into the experience feeling safe, feeling honored, feeling valued, feeling appreciated by the other person. So that's the acronym, RBDSMA. That's how I experience deeply intimate, conscious romantic experiences without those negative after effects, without the guilt, without the shame, without the regret, without the embarrassment, where I can really get clear on my expectations with the other person and they can get really clear on their expectations with me. So if you're somebody who's in the Mexico area, if you're in Playa, if you're in Tulum, if you're somewhere in the Yucatan and you want to learn deeper principles about conscious intimacy, I'm hosting a 2-day conscious intimacy facilitator training on April 1st and 2nd in Tulum, Mexico. We're going to be spending 2 days together practicing deep conscious intimacy exercises and games to help you heal your nervous system, to help you experience a state of deep co-regulation Co-regulation is a nervous system experience where we begin to heal through the presence of another person. When we're dysregulated, we're in a state of stress and trauma and fear. And when we're regulated, we're in a state of relaxation, peace, and safety. Co-regulation is an experience of getting regulated in the presence of another person. So I'm going to be sharing all sorts of co-regulation exercises. So there are 2 full days of training, day 1 and day 2, Saturday and Sunday, about 6 to 7 hours each day. We're going to be practicing all sorts of intimacy games like eye gazing, hand holding, different breathwork exercises which can generate a lot of energy. We're going to be playing some authentic relating games. We're going to be talking about how to use intimacy for manifestation, for deep healing. There's a 5-part video course that comes with the program. There's some private coaching with me and a lot more. You can learn about it in the description of this video. And again, I'm practicing that on April 1st and 2nd in Tulum, Mexico. There are 2 spaces filled. I've got 8 spaces left as of the recording of this video, and I expect those spaces to fill very quickly. So if you'd like to learn more about the Conscious Intimacy Facilitator training, check out the description in the link of this video. And if you have any other questions, you can put them in the comment section or subscribe to this channel if you enjoy this video. And please, if you've had struggles in your intimate relationships in the past, if you've had those awkward, uncomfortable, shameful relationships, try the RBDSMA acronym. It may transform your life like it's transformed mine. And you'll be able to practice conscious intimacy in a way where you get to feel loved, appreciated, respected without all of those negative after effects. So thanks for watching, everyone. Please let me know in the comment section, do you use RBDSMA or will you use it now that you know what it is? Let me know in the comment section. And again, if you're in Tulum, Mexico or Playa or in the Yucatan area and you'd like to check out the Conscious Intimacy Facilitator training, check out the information in the link in the description of this video. Thanks very much for watching, everyone. I'll see you very soon.